110. Not a statistic, not a number on a page. 110 separate moments when a man pressed his cheek against cold steel, controlled his breathing, and made a decision that couldn't be unmade. The Italian countryside was quiet between the explosions. Mud. Gray skies. The smell of cordite hanging in the air long after the shot. And somewhere in the hills, invisible, patient, a Canadian soldier the enemy had stopped calling by name. They didn't know his name. They only knew what he left behind. 110 confirmed kills. One rifle. One man operating at the edge of what human beings are capable of doing to each other, and what they're capable of enduring inside their own minds. This is not a story about marksmanship. It's a story about what war builds when it finds the right person, and what it costs to be that person. Harold Marshall grew up in rural Ontario. Small town. Quiet life. He learned to shoot the way most boys in that part of Canada did, out of necessity, not ambition. Hunting with his father before dawn. Reading the land. Learning patience before he knew that patience was a skill. He was not a violent man. That matters. The men who become the most dangerous in war are rarely the ones who wanted to be. When Europe stopped being something in a newspaper and started being somewhere men had to go, Harold didn't hesitate long. No parade in his decision. No speech. Just a door closing quietly on everything he had been. What walked through that door and into a uniform was the same man, the same steady hands, the same patient eyes. The war would find a use for all of it. Most snipers were assigned targets. Harold Marshall assigned himself, while standard infantry doctrine pushed soldiers to engage the nearest threat. Marshall operated by a different logic entirely. He studied the battlefield like a surgeon studies an X-ray. Who was giving orders? Who was carrying the radio? Who, if removed, would cause the greatest collapse in the moments that followed? Officers, signal operators. Men whose deaths didn't just end a life, they severed a nerve. German units moving through his operational areas began warning each other. Quietly. Urgently. There was someone in the hills who wasn't shooting at the army. He was dismantling it. A ghost doesn't need to be everywhere. It only needs to make you believe it might be. Marshall was very good at making people believe. Italy was not a forgiving place to fight. Broken terrain, rocky ridgelines, valley floors that turned to swamp when it rained, and it always seemed to rain. Marshall worked in conditions no training manual had fully accounted for. The textbook taught angles and windage. The Italian campaign taught survival arithmetic, how long you could hold a position before the enemy triangulated your location, how to move without disturbing the skyline, how to become part of a landscape actively trying to kill you. German counter-snipers hunted him while he hunted others. Patient men with the same skill set and the same mission. He outlasted them all. But outlasting has a price. The question no one asked Marshall was what it costs a man to live entirely inside the crosshairs. The morning was cold and absolutely still. Marshall had been in position for hours, motionless, breathing slow. He had found his target, a German officer, 600 yards out, moving with the confidence of a man who believed he was beyond range. He wasn't. Marshall read the wind, calculated the drop. He exhaled halfway, stopped, held the world inside a single suspended second. Then, the crack, sharp and final, swallowed almost immediately by the landscape. The officer dropped. The men around him scattered. Marshall didn't move. Not out of tactical caution, out of something else, something harder to name. The shot was confirmed. The distance recorded by any military measure, it was extraordinary. But extraordinary wasn't what Marshall felt lying in that frozen Italian dirt. Some part of what he had been before the war was now as gone as the man in his scope. Some things, once done, don't leave room for the person you used to be. Canada welcomed its soldiers home with handshakes and headlines, parades, the comfortable language of victory. Marshall came home too. Same hands, same eyes, different weight behind them. The towns that celebrated men like him had no framework for what those men had actually done, hour after hour, in silence and mud and cold. Heroism was the word everyone reached for. It was easier than sitting with a specific, unrepeatable reality of what 110 decisions actually looked like from inside the man who made them. Marshall didn't correct anyone. He accepted the handshakes. He nodded at the right moments. He didn't talk about it much. That silence said more than any interview ever could. 110 men never went home. 110 families. 110 mornings that were someone's last. But here is the other side of that math. The men Marshall fought alongside, the soldiers who moved through those Italian hills under his invisible protection, most of them came home. To their families, to their mornings. Someone made that possible. Someone paid a price that can't be calculated in medals or confirmed kill counts. Whether that balance matters, whether it changes anything, that's not a question Harold Marshall ever answered out loud.